to How to Test This, the podcast designed to help software testers understand risk and adopt new testing solutions with ease and confidence. Your host is Mahamadou, a quality assurance consultant with over 10 years of experience across multiple industries. In each episode, he'll talk to different experts and learn from them about how they test.
Hello, everyone. Today, I'm happy to welcome Pradeep Sundararajan. Pradeep has over 23 years of experience as a hands-on tester, independent consultant, businessman, CEO of testing companies, Bugasura, Moolya testing. He employs over 500 testers and has clients worldwide. He wrote several books, Buddha in testing, Growth-driven testing, Aristotle in testing. He is on a mission not only to help tech companies test better, but also fix problems our industry ignored for decades. He's been influenced by the context-driven school of thought, as well as mentored by industry legends such as James Bach and Michael Bolton. And he described himself as a chief servant to these employees and customers, which shows commitment to servant leadership with focus on building helpful, supportive cultures. So is it correct? Did I miss anything?
Well, thank you, and great gratitude to your kindness. Yes, you kind of summarized my whole career, and a lot of people make me possible. So a lot of things that I speak is borrowed wisdom from them. So, okay, thank you, and my best wishes, okay, to you and to your audience as well.
Okay, thank you, Freddie. So today we'll be mainly talking about how to test with a calm mind. We'll start with your journey into testing and founder. Then we discuss the philosophy of testing with a calm mind and why it matters for testers. Then we're going to talk about the current problems we see in the software testing world. And after that, we're going to ask you about practical tips to implement to get better testers. And finally, we'll conclude with recommendation on how to adapt in this new era. So
Great. Looking forward to it.
Okay, so let's get started. So can you walk us through your journey? Can you walk us through your journey into how you got into testing?
Yeah, absolutely. And I never get bored telling this story. And I think all passionate testers never get bored telling how they got into testing. So I, like many others in 2003, I didn't know software testing was a specific focused skill area. And when I was doing some research work, and one of the companies that I was trying to partner with gave me a job, and they said, you can begin with tester and then graduate to a developer. So I didn't know what a tester was at that time. So I picked it up. But that's just me getting into the industry, just me getting a title of a test consultant. But I truly, truly became a tester when I started to fall in love with what I was doing. And I could see the difference and value of what, testing can do for organizations. And of course, that's the time where I was searching for some of the leading test experts, and grateful that the Google search results in SEO worked in such a favor that I found people like James and Michael and Jerry Weinberg and Elizabeth Hendrickson and people like them who made me possible. And then so that's how I got into testing, and that's how I fell in love with testing. And I'm sure, finding the first bug, the kind of juices that was flowing inside my body when I realized that I found my first bug. And when the first bug that I reported got fixed, the kind of juices that was flowing inside me was great. And it was such an addiction. I think it's very addictive. That's probably why testers get branded as the bug finders. It's very addictive. It's a really special feeling. It's a very spiritual feeling. So I think I fell in love with all of these things. And so that's how I got into testing, and that's how testing got into me.
Great. And can you also talk about how you got influenced by Sridhar as your first guru? I think he helped you find your mission.
Yeah. Sridhar Krishnamurthy was the architect in the company that I first started off. It was called ImpulSoft, and they were working on Bluetooth, cutting edge Bluetooth technology in 2003, which was cutting edge at that time. And so he's the guy who had written the protocol stack and stuff like that. And I was truly inspired looking at his work, and I wanted to learn from him. So he started coaching me. He started, mentoring me, and I looked up to him and his other, friend, Mr. Ravi Joshi. So I looked up to these two people, and these people were doing fantastic stuff. They had written the protocol stack, the Bluetooth protocol stack, and they were so humble testing it. And I wasn't humble at that time. So I was like, well, these guys wrote the stack that I'm testing. And these guys are so humble, and I am not. And I'm feeling like I am the one who found the bug in their protocol stack. So it was that kind of a feeling, and that really surprised me. Like saying, if somebody who just finds a bug is so not so humble, how can these people be so humble? So Sridhar is both a great software professional and a spiritual professional. So he started guiding me towards the spiritual side of software and the software side of spirituality. So that's how I fell in love with the mentorship that people like Sridhar Krishnamurthy were offering to me. And I think getting that first mentor in the first job and the first great mentor in the first job was, I am truly lucky. And I think I've been lucky all throughout my life, getting really good gurus at the right time. So thanks to the nature for that.
Okay. And you also have a surname called Kung Fu Panda. What does it say about you?
Oh yeah. You found that out. Great, awesome. A long time ago, I was looking like a Kung Fu Panda. I was large in size. I had a very big tummy, and I was so unconventional. I was a lateral thinker. I was so unconventional. I was so raw, and I was never polished. So a lot of people, when they looked at me, they could see a panda who wanted to do something in life, but is so raw, so funny at times, so crazy at times, and just with a lot of dreams. And I had the feeling that I had the best kung fu testing skills in the world, but I truly did not. So when I went to my master Ugwe, like James and Michael, and I behaved pretty much similar to how Kung Fu Panda behaved with the first time he interacted with Master Shifu. So there are a lot of parallels in all of that stuff. But as the years pass by, I have moved from the Panda to the Shifu, and from Shifu to Ugwe. So right now, I am more aligned to being an Ugwe than being a Panda. So that's the
Yeah.
journey on the Kung Fu Panda. I can still do those tricks.
Yeah, very, very good story. I wanted to hear about it. Thank you. Good story. And
Thank
also,
you. Thank you.
what made you want to, being a tester, what made you want to start not only one company, but two companies? Like, what problem did you see that say, okay, I need to create my company?
Oh, yeah. A lot of testers don't become entrepreneurs. So to me, when I discovered a great, deeper critical thinking value from testing, I looked at the industry. I was truly appalled by how this industry was taking a very shallow thinking testing, and they have scaled it industry wide. So whenever people talk about a critical thinking approach to testing, even today, whenever people talk about a critical thinking approach to testing, the industry sort of rejects it, saying, we don't have time for all these things, right? So they have ended up scaling a very shallow approach to testing in the industry. And for me, this bugged me quite a lot as a passionate tester. This bugged me quite a lot, seeing the sad state of so many thousands of testers doing a very shallow approach to testing and assuming that that's what testing is. So I felt really sad for testers. I felt really sad for customers who are going through all that pain. While most of that pain can be prevented with a critical approach to testing. So that's the reason why I wanted to start a company, to see if I can serve customers and become the leading example. I mean, my companies can become a leading example for other companies to say that approach scales too. So that's how Moolya was born. And in the journey of the entrepreneurship, I realized that in order to influence the world, you need both a combination of services and products. And that's where the services and products came together. So the Bugasura became the product, and the Moolya part became the services. And today, everything is under the umbrella of Moolya. So that's so Moolya and Bugasura, our customers get a full-fledged package of critical approach to thinking and testing from the product and also from the people. So that's the reason why I truly started. I mean, if somebody had built a company like this, I would have happily joined, enjoyed my whole life. But sadly, nobody did, and I was forced to do that. And I'm so glad that so many passionate testers have come on board in my company, and I've enjoyed what I should have enjoyed if somebody else built it. So I really envy my own people.
Yeah, that's a very interesting story. But I want testing.
Oh yeah. Since they have consumed a lot of testing from other companies who have shown them a very shallow approach, the biggest misconception that people have is that testing means just test cases and scripts, and there's more automation. So that's the first misconception. Second misconception is that they think that everything that the human is doing can always be replaced. That's the second misconception, and surprisingly, nothing has changed over the last 2 decades. The third misconception that people have is that if they're not able to automate something, they think that they need a different framework or something like that, and they're not understanding that some things are best left the way they are. The other misconception is that they think every testing should happen within the sprint, and that's just impossible. But they continue to live in these delusions. So I would say these are the top four that come to my mind, top 3 or 4 that come to my mind, and this has been plaguing our industry for a while.
Okay, that's great. So now that we know about you and your path, let's talk about your philosophy. First of all, what makes you write a book? Because usually testers, they don't write books. So what motivates you to write books?
Oh yeah, absolutely. I read a lot of books in the software testing space, and I was truly inspired. And a lot of my decisions that I've taken in my life have been from the inspiration of books and movies, of course. So books and movies and sports, and we take inspiration from all these places, right? And some of the literature that is out there in terms of testing is just fabulous. I think the BBST course from Ken Kinner and his friends from the Florida Tech University is just fabulous. The lessons learned in software testing is just phenomenal. My friend Ben Simon gave me a book of you know it when you see it. It's about quality. And of course, Jerry Weinberg has written books on software quality and software testing and perfect software and other illusions about testing. I think these books have a lot of wisdom that they have just packaged several decades of wisdom and given it to us like a capsule to consume. But generations and generations of testers, not they don't. I mean, forget writing books; they don't read books. So I think that one of the challenges that I found was that books were being read when there is some sort of an exam that they have to take, or there is a real need if they don't know something, they need a job and stuff like that. But once YouTube came and YouTube, podcasts and everything about how to do it started, people also stopped reading books because of that. Now with the vibe coding and Claude and stuff like that, they are going to further stop reading books. So why am I writing books and I started writing books in 2020. I've been writing blogs for a long time. I started as tester tested blog, and I've been sharing a lot, and this built a great network of passionate testers in my life, and I felt that the natural progression from writing blogs were books because I had a packaged story to say. I had a sort of theme that I could write about instead of, if it's a blog, it can be broken. It can be one topic now, another topic later. But I think, I did that. The other reason I wrote a book is to also break this sort of thing that I had in my head that, oh, a book needs to be only this way. So I decided to reinvent writing books in my own way, which is why the books that I've written are very different, very crazy. Some sort of people are like, "Hey, is this even possible?" Kind of okay books, but I also feel that it's just a feeling. Maybe it could be right, it could be wrong, but I feel that I have certain style of storytelling that connects with the audience. And I have a storytelling that is unique. Like, for example, my latest book, Aristotle and testing. It's a book of analogies in testing. While there are a lot of legends and a lot of people have been talking about testing with analogies, nobody packaged it together as a book. So I want to just make testing fun, and to make testing fun, it has to be documented in a fun way. And I think I'm finding those expressions through these books that I'm publishing. So that's a fairly brief answer for the simple question you asked
It
me.
makes sense to understand the context as well. So it's very interesting. But you referred like not only a good storyteller, but also father of analogies. What would
Yes.
that have to do with testing in the first place?
Mm, that's a great question. So my first book, Buddha and Testing, actually it occurred to me. It happened through me, I would say. The book chose me, then I chose the book. When I reflected back at my life as a tester, there were a lot of frustrating moments in my life. I think the more passionate, the more skilled somebody becomes, the more frustration, the more sort of they get to see things that are more broken than others see, right? So for me, when I saw those things, I was quite frustrated with a lot of things. It's the same repeating patterns, people not understanding some basics that they should understand, same kind of bugs recurring. There's no lessons learned. And I was going through a lot of, frustration. But then I reached a level of, spiritual realization in life. And then I said, what if this spiritual realized tester goes through the same situation? How would this person deal with the same chaotic situation? And then, connecting a little bit to the Kung Fu Panda and the Buddha, the yin yang, which also symbolizes that there is the peace exists within chaos. So I wanted to explore what is the peace that can exist within the chaos that surrounds software testing and QA fields and all of that stuff. And that's the reason why I wrote, Buddha in Testing. And it's structured also in such a beautiful way that it talks about a chaos. It talks about how to calm yourself in that situation. I don't think there are books about how to test, what to test, blah, blah, blah. This is the locators. This is how you do. This is the page object model, all of that stuff. But nobody talks about the tester's feelings, the frustration. So I think the Buddha in Testing became probably, although lessons learned in testing, in software testing, also had some glimpses of it, but this turned out to be the first fusion of the spirituality and software testing. So that's how Buddha in Testing happened.
Yeah, and in this book, you also said you start with saying the testers might never rest. So what does that mean,
Right.
and what can we do about it?
Oh yeah, that's important. Okay, as well. By nature, a tester is curious. So if you throw a software in front of a tester, they're kind of curious about, hey, I think bugs are hiding here. I think there are problems here. I think I'm skeptical about what is being said about here, what the claims made about here. So when a mind is fired up in a testing mode, it can go on an overdrive. The more passionate you become, the more you think about your work when you go to sleep, although it's not a good thing to do. But you kind of, during sleep, during shower, you think about work, you think about, hey, what could I have done better, blah, blah, blah. So it's quite possible that some of the passionate testers that I have seen are constantly working, constantly thinking, constantly relating to what all could be happening related to their work and software that they're actually testing. So their mind was never in rest, and even at work, they are constantly bombarded with too many things at the same time. So the Slack channel is open, and a lot of requests coming in from different stakeholders. They are catering to this stakeholder. Another request comes in, and then the developer asks something. So I think this testing function, is prone to a lot of overthinking. And I think so that's the reason why, I wrote saying that, a tester's mind is never at rest. And I wanted to write a book to bring rest to such a mind so that it can do much better.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you very much. And also in the book, Aristotle in testing, you have many analogies around Formula One, cricket, flight crash investigation, dating, even parenting. What's the most surprising analogy? Like people, when they hear it, they get caught off guard.
Yeah, some people when they heard that there are actually analogies from pregnancy and menstruation and menopause, they're like, really? They're you could connect pregnancy and menstruation and menopause to testing. And I said,
Correct.
yes, absolutely, absolutely. That's one of those things. The other thing, okay, is also about politics and war, and we all are in the middle of all of that stuff. And I think that also has surprised some people, and they're quite excited about the sports side of things, but they're truly surprised that there could be connections from politics and pregnancy and all of that stuff, okay, to testing. So yeah.
Yeah, so there's one I like a lot. It's about the grandparent analogy. You said they don't care about fun, they just want a video call. So, for example, this one, what does it say about testing?
Yes. Okay, absolutely right. So if you look at customers, the customers never asked which approach, which technique, what value, what type of approach are you using. They care about the value. They care about the, sort of an end user value. I think today many conversations in many organizations happen across which is the right approach, and they're so obsessed to certain things that they forget about that they're doing all of this for the customer. Each and every tester and developer and program manager and project directors, everybody exists to serve the customers. When they become delusional, when they start to say this tool is better than that tool and stuff like that, I think the conversation should surround around this is better for our customers. But how often have we heard that? We haven't heard that. We have always heard that, oh, I have evaluated this. I think this is the right thing to do. Or this seems to be the popular one. This has support. This doesn't have support. Even if a tool doesn't have support, can it help your customers do better in a sustainable way, then they should actually choose that tool. But unfortunately, people get digressed and they forget the customer. So some of these analogies I've written to indirectly or directly remind people that they should not be forgetting the customer at the end of the day.
Okay. And you also been influenced by James Bach and Michael Bolton. Like, how did they shape your vision into testing? Like,
Yeah, that's a fab question. I must say, James and Michael have slightly different approaches of how they coach me, and thankfully they were like parents. James acted like a father, and Michael acted like a mother. And until I got my mother, my journey was in a certain way, and once I got my mother and father together, it truly transformed how I take and understand things in testing. James and Michael, they've been doing rapid software testing, and I was sort of one of their first of the few guinea pig online students. So James and Michael would experiment a lot of exercises on me online, which taught critical thinking, which taught approaches to testing, which taught methodologies. But more importantly, they shaped me as a consultant, as a person who can use all these skills to transform it and translate it for my clients that I was serving here in India and other countries and abroad. So I think they didn't just shape me in software testing. They shaped me as a person, as a way that I can actually think about that. They helped me transform all parts of me. They personally also transformed me. They supported me. There was a time where I did not have a laptop or a table and a chair, which I'm using right now. And they were the ones who said, "Oh, you seem to be passionate and you're serious about stuff, so you should be gifted this." So they gifted me a laptop and a table and a chair. And that sense of gratitude that I continue to carry about them is absolutely phenomenal. And during COVID, where when my company had to distribute chairs and tables and everything for people who didn't have one at certain times, I felt like I'm truly passing on what they gave me by multiplying it. So I think, okay, every student, the best way to celebrate their gurus is to multiply what they have given and, okay, give it to the world. So that sort of completes the cycle.
Okay. Another question about your philosophy. Like you are doing stuff like no other one CEOs doing. Like you refer customer to competition, you prioritize relationship over big deals, and you also criticize some certifications if you don't agree on codes written by law. Like what lesson have you learned from this experience?
Yeah. I've referred some customers who came to us, to my competitors and stuff like that. I think I look at this world as a community coexisting and living together. We are all learning coexistence. And I think as a part of coexistence and truly caring for, customers, whether they are my customers or my competitors, customers, I came into this business to help every customer see a greater value from testing, a value of serving their customers better, a value of growing because of serving their customers, better. Now, if my competitor does something much better and I'm not able to solve a problem for my customer, I should refer them to my competitors. This is actually basic business ethics for every business person. But most of them don't do that because they've been drilled in the mind that competition is always there to take away your business. Yeah, maybe if I'm Jeff Bezos and I'm looking at Sundar Pichai building something like an Amazon, I'm like, hey, he's a competitor. I think we're all right now small fishes in a large ocean, and there's ample food for everybody to eat, and we don't need to fight over food. So that's the reason why I refer some of the customers whenever I see that I can't serve them or my company can't serve them, I refer it over to them. Also, it's about the fit. Not every customer, okay, fits every service provider or every product because of various other contexts. So I'm being realistic and practical when I do that. Now, sometimes, yes, people criticize. I think I've not seen a single person in my life who has grown and not been criticized, including God
Yeah.
for that sake, including God for that sake, right? So I felt like, hey, if people can criticize God, if people can criticize some of the best of the people, who am I? I'm just another citizen of a country, and obviously they're going to criticize me, and I also empathize with them that sometimes they will criticize me, sometimes they will feel bad about certain things that I've said. I feel sorry for them. I don't intend to do that, to them, but they do that, which is okay, as long as somebody doesn't encroach my physical space and doesn't, physically harm me. They are saying things about me on the internet. I'm very cool about that, today. But a while ago, but not a while ago. I mean, I'm talking about a long time ago, maybe more than a decade ago, I would take it very personally. I would take it so personally that, oh my God, this comment came on this thing that I wrote, and I would not get my sleep. And I would be thinking about tomorrow morning, I'm going to wake up and respond to this guy. Like, this guy's going to not get sleep tomorrow. But, today I'm like, every night I have a simple practice that I just say, whatever happened. And now Pradeep is going to sleep. So that's how I'm going to sleep every night. And I've been getting good sleep. So, okay, touch wood.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. Thank you. Thank you. So
Thank
yeah,
you.
that shows a lot about your business ethic and why you get called the chief servant for
Oh,
your customer. Okay, so next, let's talk about the problem we see in the software industry. Like nowadays, let's be honest, the role of tester is not much respected. So why is it the case? Do you think, and are we responsible for that?
Oh yeah, the reason why testers are not respected much has to do with how industry actually wanted, testing to be. It's less of the tester's fault and more of how the industry leaders wanted, testing to be. They initially wanted it to be that I don't trust these people, so I'm going to make them follow a script. Then they said all that they're doing is following the script. I want to get it automated. And then they said, oh, it can be run over a script. And these dumbos were just executing a script. Now, okay, poor testers, they came in for a job. Some of them got passionate. Some of them still see it as a job. You cannot blame them. They all need to take care of their family. So it's okay for people to see it as a job. But it was industry's responsibility to bring, credibility to it. Industry's leaders' responsibilities. I'm talking even about the business leaders, not just the thought leaders of our industry. The thought leaders of our industry are doing a great job. But I'm talking about the business leaders. The business leaders wanted, testing to be that way so that they can control it. They can squeeze it any which way that they want it. They can get the kind of testing done. And also, in your experience, in my experience, every stakeholder in the company has a lot of opinions about testing, and they want it their way. So they wanted people who will agree with them and not, disagree with them. So they hire a tester to give them the bad news, but they don't want to hear the bad news. And this is how the industry became a victim of wanting to see more pass percentages. And slowly, the passionate, testers who were reporting bugs were removed. Script writers were brought in to make a test pass that was so-called already passing, and wanted that pass to continue. And many people even modified the script to make a test look pass. So this industry has faced the repercussions of what it wanted. So now, sadly the humans, the testers, the more visible in this equation, get blamed for how testing is. I mean, initially I was very upset with testers. I mean, when I was younger, like, how can you not be passionate about testing? But right now I empathize with them that, hey, you know what? I was fortunate. I was fortunate that I worked with some great people in my first company. I was fortunate that I met people like James and Michael and Jerry Weinberg and Ben Simo and Elizabeth Hendrickson and so many other people who truly have inspired me to make it happen. For me to be a passionate, tester, but a lot of testers don't have this exposure. And I wish they have this exposure, but they don't have this exposure. So they'll end up seeing, testing as a job, as how their business leaders have told them, and sadly, they are the ones who also get blamed. So that's why I think the credibility of testing has not gone higher, and equally because they've cut off the passionate testers from finding bugs.
And if you had the power to change the industry, like what would you put in place, for example?
Oh, that's a fabulous question. That's a fabulous question. One of the things I recently did, maybe I should actually publish it. I recently started writing a post on if I were the CEO of the world's testing, CEO of the world of testing, and I could control and I could say anything that this world will do, what all I would do and how I would do is the post I started to write. And then I felt, oh, Pradeep, people are going to be too upset with your post. Not that I don't want them to be upset. I want them to be slightly upset because otherwise there's no fun in it as well. But the world will be too upset, and I didn't want to upset them right now because the world is already going through a situation. So coming back to that answer, okay, if I were the CEO of the testing, okay, well, or if I had the power to change things, I would bring the focus back on customer, on everything related to software, product engineering and testing. I would say, let's first talk customer and let's figure out if this helps customers. That, I think, is going to phenomenally change the kind of people that we need, the kind of skills that we need, the kind of value that we want to bring. And that change will certainly trigger a big domino effect in people, to making them making them think that they need critical thinking skills to be of good value in this industry. And that's something I still want to do. And I still feel that power is slowly coming to me. Slowly. Not It's so slow that people can't see it. But I wish that comes to me. Yeah.
Let's talk about the problem again. So to fix, you said in your popular quote in the book, Buddha and Testing, don't argue with definition. Like, what do you mean by that?
Yeah. Okay. Now you're putting me in a spot where some sort of a criticism might come if people see this, which is okay. Okay. I think our industry has some of the best thought leaders. Some of the best thought leaders. Truly, they're amazing. But all that some people do is trigger them by using some terminology or get stuff that these passionate leaders are very particular about. And they get super triggered about it. And they spend a lot of time trying to prove a point, which I feel over the years, you've already proven that point. You don't need to keep reproving it over and over again. And for somebody who doesn't want to learn, they don't want to learn. If somebody who truly wants to learn, they will truly discover the true meanings of it. True meaning of it. Now, so to me, I feel that a lot of thought leaders' time is wasted by some people who want a conversation, who feel lonely, they want a conversation. They just put it out a post saying, do you think this terminology is good? And I've seen people on LinkedIn mastering this approach where whenever they feel lonely, they just go and say, what do you think about this terminology? And they get like 75 people commenting saying this is right, this is wrong, this is the way, this is not there. And they waste a lot of people's time. I used to waste a lot of my time trying to talk about it, but now I'm not interested to talk about it. That's why I'm carefully not using any terminology or word while describing this. But I still know this can possibly trigger some sort of a comments about it. I don't know. Maybe I'm curious to see.
Yeah, exactly. And also, you've been there for decades, and you saw the rise of people falling in love with automation tools. So, do you see the same thing with AI?
Yeah, it's very natural for people to fall in love with or fall in obsession with the tools, with automation tools. It happened, and now people are talking about a lot of AI tools, and they will also do this with what replaces AI. This is sort of a survival instinct more than truly passion for solving problems. It's a survival that makes people learn a lot of tools, although that's not how it should have been. But I feel that it's part of the survival, so it's 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 okay for them to do it. Now, I think that obsession is dangerous. If people are conscious about what they're doing, then it's safer. But right now, there is a lot of obsession. There's a lot of fan following for one tool, and then suddenly the same people go and speak against it. I feel sad about it, but that's something I have seen and I've observed, and I detach myself completely from it.
Okay, I got it. So that's why in your popular post you said the tester should focus only on the customer, and AI is a business problem, is your employer's
Yeah.
problem, not your problem.
Yes. Yeah. 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 Today, if you see, I just want to expand a little bit on that. Today, if you see, a lot of companies have invested so much money in the name of AI that it's become a business problem to find the value from it. It's not a tester's problem, and it's made into a tester's problem. It's made into a developer's problem. But ultimately, it is a business problem. Now, I think one of the questions people should be asking. I mean, so today people are bragging about, oh, we are able to ship code much faster, right? And none of the customers are talking about, oh my God, I've been using the software. Now I'm getting 6 more features every day. I feel so good about it. No customer is saying that. No customer is saying that. And it's these people who are obsessed to tools, who are bragging about stuff that the customers truly don't care about.
Yeah. So I kind of understand now, like for you, it's customer in the center of every decision. So let's talk about how to implement this philosophy in practice. So first of all, how can we shift from bug finding mindset to caring about the customer mindset?
Well, I think bug finding mindset is a subset of caring for the customers. Only if you care for the customers, you want to find bugs that they would have found, which will cause problems for them. And you want to prevent that from happening to the customer. So it's not a transition of bug finding to caring for customers. It is because of care for customers is the bug finding one. Now, talking about caring for customers, I think most of the job descriptions don't talk about customers. Most of the job descriptions talk about the skills and what you'll do, and we need this, we need you to write this, we need you to review this, we need. So I think that the caring for customers is either assume that it exists in everybody, which is not true, or they also assume that that's the culture, which is also not true. So I would say that culture has contributed to more bugs than code has ever contributed. And I've seen this in many organizations. So today, if I were to support an organization to reduce their number of bugs, the first thing that I'm going to look at is that the culture of the company is not at the code. But obviously everybody wants me to look at the code, look at the architecture. Those are the obvious places. We will of course get there, but we shouldn't be starting from half of the funnel. We should be starting from the top of the funnel. And the top of the funnel is actually from the CXOs who set the culture. So there was a super large company who came to me for a consulting engagement. And they said, "Oh, Pradeep, we have these problems." And I said, "Oh yeah, I'm sure you have those problems because of course, you're talking about it so lucidly. You know why these problems are there." They said, "Yeah, we know why these problems are there. So what do you want me to do?" "Well, we want you to review our test practices and suggest us what better can we do." I said, "I can do that for you. But that's only going to fix 3% of your problems. The 97% is hiding elsewhere. You want me to focus on that or you want me to focus on this?" So that was an important question that they went back and reflected back, and they realized that, the test practices, fixing the test practices is truly not going to move the needle much. So like that, I think in every organization, the culture precipitating to the architecture, precipitating to the code and the documentation, then precipitating to testing, and then precipitating to support is how the funnel works. So that's how I can describe caring for the customer part.
Yeah, exactly. And also, how do you recommend for us to do to peel off this image of being a gatekeeper?
Yeah. Gatekeepers, we are gatekeepers because somebody wanted us to be gatekeepers. We can also be like, you recruit somebody and, the government recruits somebody and gives them a uniform and say, "You're now a police officer," right? So they're going to start and think and behave like a police officer. And let's say they give them a different uniform. And now as you say, "Oh, now you're in the army." They're going to think like an army, think like an army personnel. So like that, I believe that people wanted gatekeepers. They built gatekeepers. We, as testers who became gatekeepers, started suffering somebody else's want, and we didn't want to be gatekeepers. And we don't want to be gatekeepers because we realized like this person wanted us to be a gatekeeper so that we can prevent bugs going to customers, and it can just remain in staging and get fixed in staging itself. And then we realized this is not the approach. But we have lived that for long enough, and we don't have influence over the system to change it. So we end up continuing to be gatekeepers. So I feel, again, sorry for those testers who are acting like gatekeepers, but by the time the realization hits, they don't have the influence. They have lived as a gatekeeper long enough, and that ends up in a sad story. So, that's my view on it.
Yeah, that's totally fair. Now it's close to the end of this interview. Let's talk about how to level up as a tester. But first of all, how do you see the role of tester evolving over the next few years?
Oh, wow. Interesting. The role of the tester in the next few years. You mean months, right? So yeah, in the last couple of months, and I just for those of you who are going to watch this recording of this, we are on 28th May 2026. Now I'm recording like as though we are in a time travel, and people should know why did Pradeep say this. So 28th May 2026. The last couple months has been crazy. There's been a lot of layoffs in the name of AI, and a lot of companies are thinking that they can replace testers with AI, which is exactly what they did when they discovered automation tools. And then they still continue to have a lot of testers. But one thing that is clear is that there's certain kind of testers who should go, irrespective of AI or not. The certain kind of testers should go. The more serious, more focused, more conscious, more skilled testers should shine. Should shine. This is my wish list. However, this industry is very well known for hiring, firing, and hiring testers. They hire a lot of testers when there is a problem, and then they fire a lot of testers when they have to cut costs, and then they again hire a lot of testers because the problem has grown much bigger. Now, in terms of role of a tester, with the kind of agentic workflows and agentic testing and more code being pushed to production faster by more people who probably don't understand that you don't need so many calls to do the same thing, so many function calls to do the same thing, is going to make a testing of software much more complex. So the shallow testers are naturally going to fall off because the complexity of testing has grown, or the reverse. There will be a lot more need of shallow testers because the problem space has exploded. So I see that there are these two possibilities. There's only these two possibilities. Either the critical thinking testers are the ones who are needed because AI can be used for some of the shallow tasks, or because AI did many of those shallow tasks before the code was pushed. There is a need for more shallow testers to come and do more things at a unit level, which right now if they're doing at a system level, they need to do it at a module level and the unit level. These are the two possibilities. But the saddest part of the possibility of the second one that I said is when the industry needs much more shallow testers, this profession will be looked much down than it is looked today. And that's something I fear. But I'm not controlling the industry right now. When I control the industry, I'll come back to this podcast and say new things.
That's great. Thank you. And for beginners in their 20s, what do you recommend them? What's your recommendation for them?
For the beginners of 2026 onwards, if somebody's beginning in software testing, it's a great opportunity for you to have a cleaner start, not get too carried away by what the world is talking. And there's sufficient good knowledge bases available, authentic knowledge bases that are available right now. I would suggest them to go through Ken Kenner's material. I would suggest them to go through rapid software testing. I would suggest them to go through what people like Rahul Verma are doing in the space of AI. And a combination of these can help them be a forward deployed tester. I mean, that's what the industry wants to call them as. If you want to truly be a forward deployed tester, this is a wonderful opportunity. Let go of all the baggage that the industry had already accumulated in the name of testing and become a forward deployed tester, or brand yourself that way by learning these things and some of these things that I suggested. And I also suggest them to follow people like, Ben Simo, there's Rob Sabrin, and many people like them who are doing a fantastic job I think Rob Sabrin also has a book out on Amazon, which talks about, test design. It's a fantastic book. I think if people read those books, if people follow such people and take authentic, courses of what James Michael and Raul Verma are doing, they can do phenomenal. And also volunteer at a lot of conferences, which gives them a free pass to listen to a lot more, people, but filter it out in such a way that at the end of the day, there should not be too many takeaways. There should be one simple, profound takeaway. That's what I would request, pray, and hope for the newcomers in testing.
Okay. And for people struggling, because nowadays the market is not easy for everybody, do you recommend them something to upskill, like project, or do you think?
Yeah. I think today learning has become a challenge because people before AI arrived, many of them thought they have learned what they need to learn for being a tester. They have. They thought so. Now, for them, before they can learn AI and the modern day world, the way the business world is changing and all of that stuff, they need to unlearn their old habits. Unlearning is a 10x difficult problem than learning anything. And I think this is where the world has the major trouble today, that they are not able to unlearn because they've been doing it for a long time. They're so attached to it. It's given them money. It's given them life. And how can they let go of that? So they're not ready to unlearn. Even if they want to, the practices stay on. It's like a smoking addiction. I've tried to quit it so many times and I failed at it, is the experience a lot of smokers say. And so it's become like a smoking addiction. So essentially, I would say that focusing on, unlearning is more important for people who are already a tester, who already have experience, than learning in itself. I think once the space is cleared in the mind, the new comes in much better. And the reason why learning is becoming difficult as people age is because they're not clearing the space. It's clogged in. So that's what I would say.
Okay, thank you. So that was my last question. Anything
Thank
you
you.
want to add that I didn't ask you about?
No, I think you have done a great job. What I really want to truly comment about you is that you have done a pretty good research of things that I have published, things I have written about. You've read a few things about from the books that I published. So you've done an incredible homework. You've just truly demonstrated to people doing both, podcast and, testing, the homework that is required in order to spend 1 hour, right? That's the sort
Yeah.
of homework. If everybody puts in homework like you, they would do great. My gratitude, to you, and my best wishes to all of your followers and those people who are going to watch this and hear this for the times to come.
It's been a very, very conversation. So thank you again for sharing your insight, your experience. For people interested, I will share the links to your books, your companies, your LinkedIn, where you're very active, give lots of good advice. So I recommend definitely people to follow you. And also, if they found this episode valuable, please share it with your colleagues and stay tuned for upcoming episodes. So I am Mamadou. This is How to Test This, and see you next time. Thank you. Bye.